There we go. And we are up. So, hey guys, Joe here and Jordan. And this is the fourth episode of Mechanics of Myth. And you know what? To like kind of start this off, we've discussed it off camera, like saying like one of my favorite video game franchises of all time is Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and they just came out with a trailer, or not a trailer. IGN came out with like a video just the other day saying like, oh, okay, well, who's this? Who's this actress lady who we didn't know the real name of for about 20 years, right? And so she's finally been revealed as Jodie Benson. And Jodie Benson is the voice actress from the 1990s Disney movie Little Mermaid. She played Ariel.
really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm like,
Oh, wow.
and the thing is that people have been speculating that that's who it was for like a long time, but
Yeah,
they were like, well, okay, well, why did she decide to hide her name and everything like that?
yeah,
And I guess she said it had more or less to do with, because she is used to doing family friendly stuff. It's like
yeah,
she decided to use a pseudonym for, you know, for doing that particular project. But some people were able to pick up on it, watch like behind the scenes, compare like voice clips from like the game and the behind the scenes from when they were recording back then, and it's just like, yeah, no, that's her. They had a couple of suggestions on who it was, but yeah, no. So I'm like, it's not a shocker, but I was like, they finally admitted it. I'm like, I don't know why it took her 20 years to do it, but I respect, I guess.
yeah. I mean, like, I get where she's coming from, though, in the sense of, I don't want my audience to just assume something about, maybe because I did something in the past and now I'm doing this now. And, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I get it. I understand why she would do that, but that's kind of wild that she decided to come out with it now. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, all right, that's
Yeah.
cool,
Like
but.
after 20 years.
Yeah, that's wild. Sorry, that's a washing machine.
No.
Um,
Oh no, I didn't hear anything.
okay, good. Um, that's why you didn't hear that because I heard that through my headphones. So
Oh,
this system's great then.
oh. Yeah,
This
yeah.
mic that I have on the laptop. But that is interesting. Like it makes me wonder exactly whether or not she was like felt guilty about it, or if it was just more of like I won't get hired because I used to be Ariel. So I need to do this pseudonym so I could actually get hired to do voice acting for more serious roles. Because I can
Oh,
see that being the issue too, because you see that all the time with actors, right?
right.
Like somebody just puts somebody in one role, then it's really hard for them to get outside that role and do something else. Johnny Depp is prime example for that. Like you say Johnny Depp, everybody says, well, Captain Jack Sparrow. You say,
Really?
yeah, yeah,
For him, like, well, first of all, I've never really seen Pirates of the Caribbean movies, like, not a single one of them.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
But I'm like, everything that I have heard that he's in and have
Uh,
like kind of partially seen him in, I'm like, there was a period of time where I'm like, I don't know what his actual face looks like because he plays so many different characters,
right, right,
you know?
right. But it's not so much about the face, it's about the name, right? So you hear
Well,
the name,
well, I just mean in
uh,
the sense to where it's like because of that, I had no role to like tie him to because I've seen him over like, I know he's more famous for the thing, but I'm like, I know that he was doing stuff before that and after that, you know?
right. Well, okay, so another prime example would be Chris Evans. What do you
Okay.
think of when you hear Chris Evans?
Oh yeah, 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 Captain America.
Right. Can you name anything else that he was in?
Johnny Storm.
Okay. Anything else?
The was it Red Sea, I think.
Okay. Anything else?
Gray Man.
Okay. Yeah, he was in Grayman.
Listen, I'm the wrong one to do this with because I actually
I know. But well, what I'm saying is
I
like
understand your point
people
though.
associate. Yeah, people
Yeah.
associate the name with the thing. So like I think the biggest switch for Chris Evans was going from Captain America to playing uh, the character in Knives Out. I forget what his name is.
Hmm.
The name was on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, um, it was a weird name, but so he went from being the ultimate good guy and being Captain America,
Hmm.
which even Captain America Civil War, like you could argue that Iron Man was kind of being the bad guy in that movie.
Hmm.
Um, not 100% true, but you could argue that he was kind of being a little bit of the thorn in Cap's side.
Yeah, he was definitely the
Um,
antagonist.
yeah, not
One
the
of them.
main antagonist, but
Yeah.
a very, very potent antagonist, especially at the end.
Right.
Um, but for him to go from that to playing the just cynical, sarcastic, angry, just violent potty mouth that he was in Knives Out, like it's
Hmm.
just such a big contrast, and it's almost like you can't fully believe that he's actually being that character. Like in a way, it was kind of genius because it made you want to root for his character
Hmm.
because you're like, well, he's Captain America,
Right.
but he's not Captain America in this. He's the grandson of a multi-billionaire that's trying to steal inheritance. So
Yeah.
it's uh, it's very much a mind thing for people where you wind up getting a name associated with something, especially with roles. And especially with bands too. Like people get that way with bands, when you have somebody who starts out with one genre of music, then they go to another, it's like, well, hold on, that's not what you do. It's like, well, let me decide what I do, kind of thing. But people get used to having people do certain things, and I could see why she would do that pseudonym so that she could get other jobs. Like
Yeah.
that would make sense to me. Um, my automatic thought was she probably felt guilty and she wanted to kind of like, not let people know that she wasn't doing family friendly roles, but at the same time, like I could see the former more than the latter, in all
Yeah.
honesty.
I think she said one reason or the other. I think it was because she was trying to align herself with more family friendly stuff at least at the time. Um, I will say this on the basically the typecasting thing. For
Yeah.
Chris Evans, at least for me, um, I think, well, let me back up and say this. I think some of that is almost a product of when were you introduced to them, right? Like, what
Mm,
role did you get introduced to them for? Like, I wasn't introduced to Chris Evans as Captain America. For me, it was Johnny Storm. So for him to
okay.
actually play Captain America when I first seen him on there, I'm like, oh, that's Johnny Storm. And that was
Hmm.
such a different thing. He wasn't funny. He was playing more straight-laced, and I was like,
Hmm.
okay. But in between that, in between the Johnny Storm and Captain America, I was seeing like what Push, The Losers, I think that's what the movie's
Hmm.
called, and
Hmm.
Street Kings with Keanu Reeves and stuff like that. So I already had kind of like a already kind of had a very thing to
Hmm.
like put him in, and that was all kind of before the Marvel stuff, took
Yeah.
off and became like a
What it
major
is
thing.
today.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
Like it
so
was it was starting to back in the day with Fantastic Four a little bit. A little bit. Not as great
yeah.
as it is now. I think the first Fantastic Four was really good. The second one was pretty bad. Uh, but I was actually you talked about it. We're going to wind up going on this tangent for a moment. You brought up Push,
Yeah.
which is the movie that I think of when I think Chris Evans is Push.
Oh yeah,
Which
yeah, yeah.
I saw him as Johnny Storm before, Fantastic Four, but I just didn't really like. Maybe it was because I was younger, but I never really believed him in that role. You know what I mean? Like it
Hmm.
wasn't like a character that you could actually see him fitting and playing very well. But him as the guy in Push, which I don't remember that guy's name, but the way that he's just kind of like a dude that's just trying to get by. He's got this trauma, he's got anxiety in himself. I really feel like he really connected with that character a lot more than he connected with the Human Torch, and in a lot of ways, a lot more than he connected with Captain America, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. What about cellular? Now, I didn't see that until later.
I haven't seen that one.
Cellular was that was more like a thriller kind of. It
Okay.
wasn't horror. It was
Okay.
more action thriller kind of thing, and it was basically like he had to stay on the phone or somebody would like die or something like that. And actually the antagonist of that film was Jason Statham, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so he had to,
interesting.
yeah, so like it was like if you hang up, like this person would die or something like that. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I'm like, but that didn't really come until after I saw like Captain America, and the first, at least the first one. But
Yeah.
I really wasn't keen on all the Marvel movies when they first came out. Like I
Mhm.
didn't really want to see the first Captain America. I saw the Hulk, the one with Edward Norton, and then I
That
saw
was, oh,
yeah, and then I saw Iron Man,
yeah.
and so then I didn't when I saw those commercials for like the first Thor, I really
Mhm.
wasn't feeling it because I saw the blonde
Mm.
wig, and this is when they used to have like cartoons on WB at the time. And I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
and when they play certain commercials at certain times, I'm like, wait a minute, this seems like a cheesy movie that they
Hmm.
promoting
Hmm.
and I like at this time to kids. I'm like, I couldn't really get with it. Then I saw it later and then I was just like, I guess it's enjoyable, it's passable. But that by that time it had already came out on DVD. So
Yeah. I liked Captain America: The First Avenger. So one of the things for me growing up was I always kind of liked the superheroes that not a lot of people really knew about and not a
mm,
lot of people really liked, and Cap was one of those for me
mm,
because a lot of people know about Cap now, but how many people knew about Cap then?
yeah, probably not many. I ain't even
Not
know.
many. Yeah, not many. So when I saw that that movie was coming out, I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah.
Um, That and there was this cartoon animated Avengers movie. Captain America was the main character.
Hmm.
Um, Hulk was actually the main antagonist in that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And really what it was they had unfrozen Cap. And so you had Black Widow, you had Iron Man, you had Ant-Man, you had Wasp, um, you had Thor, and you had the Hulk and Betty. So it was very much like I can't remember exactly who was the threat before Hulk, but I do remember that they wound up having to fight Hulk. And the only way that they stopped him was they were able to shoot him with a tranquilizer, essentially. Um,
Is this a
but I
world breaker hole or something like
No,
that?
no, it
Okay.
wasn't World Breaker Hulk. It was the Avengers.
Okay.
But Captain America was the main character, and it was just really, really well done. I don't remember how old I was when it came out, but I want to say it was probably about 18 years ago,
Okay.
somewhere between 15 to 18 years. Um, and I had already like read Captain America comic books and everything. So when
Yeah.
that came out and I saw Captain America uh, played that way because I'd seen him before on like Spider-Man and stuff like that, and they never really gave him great homage on Spider-Man. It was just more of like, oh, here's this dude that's been frozen in time wrestling with this guy in a beam for so many years, and now he's wrestled out of the beam with a guy, and how does then he wrestles Red Skull back into the beam? That's how that is,
Right,
And so for them to actually tell his story and show that, he was kind of a man outside of time. He still had a lot of fight left in him. Um, it really kind of piqued my interest, especially when they came out with the live action version. And I remembered Chris Evans as Push. And I thought that he would do really well with Captain America because he has a way of capturing that, like, I don't think like everybody else. I don't
hmm,
operate as everybody else. I'm kind of an outsider in a lot of ways, but I do want to help people. And that's essentially who Captain America was, if you think about it. Because when he went into the military as Steve Rogers, he was just this scrawny little white boy while everybody else was big and ready to fight the war. And so he went in not because he wanted accolades, he went in because he didn't like bullies. He wanted to stop Hitler.
right,
Um, wanted to serve his country. And so that kind of fits pretty well with Chris Evans' mentality and the way that he performs and projects himself. So I was really interested when I saw that he was going to be the actor for Captain America. And that's why I actually went and saw it in theaters. I think that's the only original Marvel movies as far as the what we just went through with the Marvel cinema for what it is now.
right.
Um, I think that's the only one that I actually went and watched in theaters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
So you didn't see none of the Avengers in theaters?
No, I didn't see the Avengers in theaters. I saw the
Okay.
Avengers after. Um, so yeah, I started watching. What was the first one I saw in theaters? I think it was Iron Man 2 was the first one that I saw in theaters past
Okay.
uh, the Captain America, the first Avenger. So then I went and watched Iron Man 2. Wasn't that good? It was better than, Thor 2, but wasn't as good. Um, but the one that I think is really underrated, and I don't know why so many people hate it. I hate it for one simple reason. Well, not hate it, but I disapprove of it for one simple reason, and that's Age of Ultron.
Okay.
Um, I really liked Age of Ultron, except where they killed Ultron at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Ultron's like the ultimate big bad besides Doctor Doom in the Marvel Universe. When it comes to the Avengers, Ultron, biggest threat. Yes, Thanos is a huge threat,
Hmm.
uh, but Ultron, especially if you use the universe where he gets the Infinity Gauntlet and he gets all the Infinity Stones,
He's a
whew, that
problem.
boy's a problem.
Yeah.
That boy's a problem.
Yeah.
Killed everybody. Killed everybody. Uh,
That's, they change character motivations like all the time, and
mhm.
that throws off
Oh yeah.
everything. Like I remember hearing with Thanos specifically, it's like the
Hmm.
reason why he wanted the Infinity Gauntlet is wasn't to like what restore balance of the universe and all this other stuff. It was basically to impress some lady named Death or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And
Lady Death.
yeah, and I'm just like, oh, they couldn't put this in like they couldn't put this in as the main motivation.
Well, you wouldn't be able to take him seriously,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Like everyone would be like, he's a simp.
yeah,
He's a
yeah.
simp.
And that's
And
what they
in
were saying.
comics, yeah, in comics he was. You know?
That's what he was.
Uh
Yeah.
yeah, that's what he was. But I do think that they could have definitely done a lot better keeping Ultron. Ultron was actually one of the best, if not the best, villains that they faced. Um, could have been better. Could have been a lot better. But definitely. Brought in a lot of really, really cool facets. I mean, you had to have Ultron in order to bring in Vision.
Right.
Like there was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I do love what they did with Thanos. I think that that actually turned out really, really good.
Hmm.
Um, to have them lose and do a two-part really, I think that really sold the story that much better, in
Yep.
a lot of ways, and that's what made Age of Ultron better. Or, I mean, sorry, it made it better than Age of Ultron. I think that they would have done the same thing with Age of Ultron, though. It probably would have been better than Infinity War and Endgame in a lot
Okay.
of ways. In a lot of ways. Um, or at least equal to Infinity War and Endgame. I'll say that. But they originally made Thanos the big bad, and so they had to keep Thanos the big bad, you know. Um,
I think they were
so
trying to find a
unfortunately,
way to tie it back in because
yeah.
with the first Avengers is like, oh, you see that after end credits, you see
Hmm.
Ebony Maw, Ebony,
Hmm.
I think that's what his name is, talking to Thanos, right? And of
Hmm.
course, he has a completely different look because they hadn't cemented like who was gonna play Thanos in,
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
looked more cartoonish and everything like that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And it was like by the time Age of Ultron came about, I thought we was gonna get that dude, I thought we was gonna get,
Oh, yeah.
and I was like, wait a minute, what happened to this? What happened to this threat in the background? Like,
Yeah.
like this is what you
Yeah.
set up for the first movie. I assumed by like the second Avengers that this was going to be the guy, but
Hmm.
then you don't really hear hide nor hair of him. Maybe here and there, maybe in the first Guardians, maybe something like
Yeah.
that. But other than
Yeah.
that, I'm just like, what about this
Yeah.
dude? And I didn't really appreciate that they didn't. I don't think during the Age of Ultron they didn't even really mention him at all or that much.
They had one flashback to Tony's nightmare and vision, and that was it.
Yeah.
It would have been better if Tony was suffering with that PTSD the entire time
Hmm.
and flashing in and out, and maybe even talking to somebody about it, and that's why he made Ultron, and that's why he did those things. Like that would have made a lot more sense. It would have uh, tied into what was happening with Stark. Honestly, I'm gonna say something really controversial, but I think a lot of people will agree with me.
Uh-oh.
As many things as Marvel did right,
Yeah.
they did about 20% more wrong.
Okay.
Um, they had a lot of great writers. They had a lot of great ideas.
Probably too
They
many.
had a lot of too many, way too many, tried to
Yeah.
fit way too many into one movie. They had a lot of bad writers and
Okay.
bad decisions. Uh, this is how I would have done it as a
Okay.
writer.
Yeah. This is the mechanics of the myth. This is how you
This
write
is the
better.
mechanics. This is how you write better.
Yeah.
And when we see myth, we don't say mythology. We're talking story,
Story.
talking story, outline, board, narrative. There's nothing mystical about this. It's literally just every story that you give, there's a myth and a legend to it in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
So, that's just kind of what we're touching on here.
Right.
But if I were to have done it, focusing on Age of Ultron specific, I would have made it two parts for
Okay.
one. The first part, I would have started with Tony having his flashbacks constantly of Thanos, and he's having all these issues and everything else. I would have made the big bads Scarlet Witch and her brother, which I'm spacing on his name for a moment for some reason.
Uh, 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 Petrov, Maximov, Peter
Yeah,
Maximov.
Maximoff.
Yeah,
Peter Maximoff. Yeah,
yeah,
I would have had
I think
them
so.
the big bads.
Yeah,
Um, in the sense of because they had a beef with Tony specifically.
yeah, yep.
Okay. So I would have had them kind of fighting him without having Ultron show up to finagle things. And I would have had Hydra revealed at that time,
Okay.
not through the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
But to set
but
up
I
Civil
would have,
War better.
to set up Civil War better.
Yeah.
Yes, I would have revealed Hydra at that point. I would have done it by the guy that they captured who was doing the experiments on Wanda and Maximoff, or yeah, Wanda and
Yeah.
Pietro.
Yeah.
Pietro. He would have been the guy that was kind of having the plan.
Oh, you talk about Claw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Claw would have been the guy to have the plan. Claw would have been the guy that was breaking things down and trying to sort through all of this stuff. I would have also uh, made it so Iron Man, so Tony Stark and Hulk were working together in secret, like they were,
Mm-hmm.
and it all comes to a head because Wanda messes with Bruce Banner's head, brings out the Hulk. He starts going rampant and wild, and Tony has to stop him. While that's happening, I would have everybody else fighting Claw and trying to stop the twins. So Wanda and her brother. Um, except for Cap and Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Hawkeye. I would have had those three kind of doing a side mission that wouldn't have been revealed until the second part of the movie.
Okay.
Here's why. As stuff is happening and we are seeing Hydra start coming into fruition and bringing things up, the only person that would be able to recognize Hydra over anybody else would be Steve Rogers
Right. Yep.
because he's seen what they do, he understands what they do. I would also have it tied to Wanda's background. Not Wanda, sorry, Black Widow's background, Natasha's background.
Okay.
We would have gone back to Budapest, all the
Yeah,
way
because
back to that time.
nobody knows what that mission is.
Nobody knows what that mission is.
Yeah.
We would have had that tied to Hydra in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
We would have gotten that information based upon what they found in the bunker, where they found the twins, where they found Loki's staff, where they found all these things. By enacting Loki's staff, taking it, they actually would have brought down on themselves the moves of either Hydra
Mm-hmm.
as an entity or Red Skull himself.
Okay. Wait a minute. Isn't Red Skull dead though at that point?
We didn't know he was dead until much later. So he could be alive,
No,
technically.
I'm only saying that because at least they could have. Well, I'll say it like that. I'll say it like this. They could have set up the Red Skull in that to
Mhm.
be the definitive thing of how he was able to show up in
Right.
Endgame
Yes.
as
Yes.
in Infinity War as the ghost of the Soul Stone.
Right. Right. And here's why. This is why I would do it this way.
Yeah.
Because the whole movie is you have I would still have Thor go off on his own, I
Hmm.
think, just so like you don't have the Thor Hulk fight, because I think the Iron Man versus Hulk was a lot more important to have at that moment.
Hmm.
Um, so I would have had like I said, Natasha, Hawkeye, so Clint and Steve all go and try to discover something based upon Budapest because they're in the bunker. Natasha
Hmm.
recognizes something. She tells Steve about it because her and Steve have been working kind of Black Ops, and nobody really knows that they've been working Black Ops together.
Right.
And so her, Clint, and Steve, because they're agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point, because why all of a sudden, this is the biggest issue that I had. Why was it that Steve Rogers went from basically doing nothing to all of a sudden he's part of S.H.I.E.L.D. doing all these missions, and then all of a sudden those missions stop, right?
Yeah.
Because we need a little bit of back history here, because Winter Soldier happened in between,
Right. In
and
between
that's why
the first Avengers and
in
Age of
Age of
Ultron.
Ultron.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Steve is already looking for uh, everything Hydra. You bring up something Hydra in the bunker. Natasha, Clint, and Steve all go to figure out the whole Hydra situation because Winter Soldier is still out there.
Right.
I would have,
Wait a minute.
I would have,
Before you
yeah.
go on, when you look at that, would you then
Mhm,
change the plot of Civil War? And the only reason why I'm asking is because this, like, I remember, seeing like a TikTok of this lady saying like,
mhm,
"Yo, like, obviously, obviously, it's Captain America's movie, Captain America Civil War,
mhm,
right? But it's like." It was like a lot of this thing was like she was saying like, Steve Rogers, like
mhm,
he, I mean, he, how did, how was she expressing it? Um, she was basically saying he was like basically 100% right for doing what he did and really didn't care about Tony at all, right?
right, right,
And and I'm like the reason why there's like a lot of people that was sympathetic towards Tony is
mhm,
because what happened with his parents, all the information that they were supposedly find out from Hydra that was
mhm,
either somewhere in the Winter Soldier or at the end of Age of Ultron or
mhm,
somewhere in
mhm.
between them. And so
So,
And so my whole thing is like if you change that and you make
uh-huh,
Civil War the plot that it was originally that's more similar to what it was in the comics, which is basically
mhm,
what they were arguing for at the beginning of the original Civil War, then maybe in
mhm,
Age of Ultron you could get it back on track and say, hey, let's not shoehorn in this stuff and make Civil War um not one side or
about
the other,
Tony's
but a little
parents
bit,
getting killed,
huh?
about Tony's parents getting killed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then
Yeah,
that way you can make Civil War a little bit more neutral instead of,
right.
oh, it's Captain America, oh, it's Tony Stark, because I feel like the idea that I got from
Yes.
the idea that I got from Civil War, like at least reading people or watching people kind of dissect that story about what the events
Hmm.
that led up to it and what the fallout was from that, made it seem
Hmm.
like they were both right in different ways, and they
Yeah,
both suffered losses for it, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just didn't get that from the Civil War movie. It just seemed like
Right,
it was just Iron Man just lost and Captain America he he had his people jailed, but it's like it wasn't enough loss to make it even. So
right, right. So the way that I would do it, and this is going to be one of those where people kind of raise an eyebrow.
yeah,
I would have made Age of Ultron and Civil War the second part of Age of Ultron
okay,
together. Here's why. When Wanda comes and messes with the Hulk's mind, remember Steve, Natasha, Clint, Falcon. I'm gonna have Falcon go with them because it makes sense he would go with them. They're
Right.
gone. Okay. Leaving who? Hulk,
Hmm.
Thor, Iron Man,
Hmm.
maybe War Machine. We can say War
Yeah,
Machine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and Shield. We'll say Nick Fury is
Okay.
there. Okay. Why is Nick Fury there? Well, because Hulk's mind got messed with.
Hmm.
He turned into this crazy, out of control individual. So the movie changes from them trying to fight Wanda and Claw and Peter,
Hmm.
and it turns into okay, now the Hulk is going on a rampage. We have to stop him. They finally contain him, but they're afraid that if Wanda can get to him, she's going to mess with his head again, going to cause the problems again. So that's when Tony starts creating Ultron.
Okay.
That's when Tony starts creating the body for Ultron. He starts creating Vision at this point. Um, while Cap is gone, Natasha is gone, Clint is gone, and Falcon is gone. It never sat well with me that Tony was able to get away with that when Natasha and Clint were right there. I could
Oh,
see him pulling the wool over Captain America's eyes because he's not really like big in technology, but Natasha would have figured out what Iron Man was doing, what Tony Stark was doing, pretty quick. Like she's really intelligent.
yeah,
If
I
she would
mean,
have
yeah,
hacked into the system or something, because that's essentially what she was doing.
yeah.
So you have them go off. They're trying to figure out the whole Hydra situation. Maybe have side missions showing what they're doing, on the side. So you have like the two stories kind of going in one where he's trying to figure out what Hydra is doing. They're trying to like figure out a way to stop Hydra at this
Mhm.
point because maybe have Steve tell him like, hey, we just had a situation with Hydra. This is a Hydra situation. We need to be able to stop this. We don't really know what's going on. And they're like, okay, we'll do some research on all these things that we found in the bunker. You guys go do boots on the ground, do what you do type situation. Leave the brains here. Spec ops, you guys go do what you do,
Right.
which that would make sense. So Thor goes off to get enlightenment. Wanda messes with Hulk's head.
Right.
Hulk goes crazy. Iron Man is able to stop him. And War Machine. We'll say War Machine is in the mix. Um, Nick Fury shows up after they're able to stop Hulk. They're trying to keep him contained away from uh, Wanda. So
Hmm.
now he's in one of those containers that they had originally built for him in Avengers, and it never really happened because they flirted with it and they never came back to it, and that drove me insane. They put him in one of those. He's talking to Bruce the whole time, and Bruce tells Tony, "I am not safe here. I am not safe. Something's happening." And then all of a sudden, now he can't control when Bruce and Hulk are in play. Hulk is starting to take over control of Bruce Banner, slowly but surely. Iron Man's witnessing this. He's trying to figure out what to do. Basically, all his friends are gone. The only person that he could talk to at this point is Nick Fury and Shield. Hulk winds up breaking out because Wanda comes in, messes with his mind again. He goes crazy. He starts destroying things again. Thor comes back. They beat Hulk, and that's when they ship off Hulk.
Wait a minute. Before that, do you
Yeah,
think people would see that as basically a reskinned few scenes of like the first movie where they did have him contained and he was destroying everything?
he was never contained in the first movie.
Well, yeah, 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 no, that was Loki.
Yeah,
But
that was Loki.
but basically like instead of Loki being in there, it's Bruce Banner. But having that whole thing where there is some type of instigator in the first one, it was Loki. In the
Mhm.
second one, it would be Wanda.
Well, it'd be Claw using Wanda. But yes,
Sure, sure.
yeah.
But I mean, I just mean in a more direct sense.
Here's the twist that I would throw in there.
Okay.
Claw would actually be Red Skull.
What you mean?
What I mean is, so Red Skull didn't die. In comics, he often wore a face mask, a flesh mask that wasn't really his face.
Right.
So he winds up getting, let's say, like in the comics, instead of getting destroyed by the Tesseract, he actually gets transported somewhere else. Hydra finds a way to transport him back, or the events of the Avengers, the first movie, winded up transporting him back.
Okay.
And the ending credits of the first Avengers isn't Thanos saying, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
Right.
Instead, it's Red Skull landing in the Antarctic, and he stands up and he's freezing, and he's like, "Rogers!" Screams, whatever.
Yep.
Okay. Now you got this play where we know Red Skull is out there somewhere. We don't know where he is. Winter Soldier comes out. You see Red Skull is doing his thing. You see how they had all these ties into Shield. They had all these ties into everything else. You think that Red Skull might be the guy that is in charge with Nick Fury, his best friend. Turns out he's not. But Red Skull is still out there somewhere, and people are wondering where he is. So now you have Claw, who has discovered Wakanda, and he is stealing vibranium and everything else, which still sets up for Black Panther for Civil War, which would be the next Avengers movie.
Right.
And he is also Red Skull. So he is still very much trying to take out Steve Rogers. He's trying to take over the world. He's trying to do all these things. And he's figured out vibranium. He
So is
he
Red
has
Skull a mantle, is what you're saying?
yes.
Okay.
No, no. Well, yes and no. Red Skull would be the actual guy, Red Skull, that
Sh
fought Captain
sure.
America and First Avengers.
Well, sure, but I'm
Um,
I'm saying if you're going to make Ulysses Claw the
mhm,
the Red Skull in this particular
mhm.
one, then clearly that's not the same one that was in the first one.
Yes and no.
Well, the
So,
the reason why I say that is because I think we
yeah.
saw if I remember correctly, because I haven't seen it in a while,
Hmm.
the the Red Skull that was in the Captain America, the first Avenger, we
Hmm.
saw his human face. He looks
Yeah.
nothing like Ulysses Claw.
So what we're gonna do, because he can do a flesh mask any way he wants to. We saw what Wanda could, not Wanda, what Natasha could do with the tech that Shield had and changing her face and everything else. They have the technology for that.
Sure.
So he's not having to wear the same flesh mask that he was before. He can put on any face he wants to. So Claw is actually a real dude that he has been missing. His people have been looking for him. Hydra is wanting to protect Red Skull because he is back. They realize that there's these people that are looking for their captain that has disappeared after he goes and tries to fight Wakanda. They place Red Skull in a situation almost like God of War style, where he is essentially Tyr, and they rescue the wrong guy.
Oh, okay. I got what you mean.
So
So,
they think
so
that they're rescuing Claw, but they rescue Ulysses. They rescue Red Skull. Claw is still in Wakanda
okay.
at
Oh,
this
I
time.
got you. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so because Claw is still in Wakanda, you have this happening. Turns out Red Skull is Ulysses' Claw at this
Mhm.
point. End of credits is Tony deciding that he's going to create Ultron. Ultron becomes a thing. He winds up starting to destroy things. Captain America is getting right on the heels of Red Skull. He winds up discovering his secret identity. They happen to discover this right before near the end of the movie. Red Skull winds up getting away. Where does he go? He goes to free the true Ulysses Claw to cause more hysteria so he can get away and they can recover essentially.
Mhm.
So that's going to be kind of the end of the first part of Age of Ultron after they've shipped off Hulk, after he created. So Iron Man ships off Hulk with Nick Fury and War Machine and Thor.
Hmm.
Um, they ship him off. Iron Man says, I'm going to build a suit of armor around the world. He doesn't have Bruce Banner speaking into his ear like a little angel anymore. So
Right.
it's all just him and his craziness. So then he creates Ultron. And right when, so end of credits would be this ring of mech around the earth that Iron Man has sent out. Red Skull has gotten away. At the end of the credits, you see Red Skull releasing Ulysses Claw.
Okay.
The reason why? Because we have to have Black Panther show up for some reason.
Hmm. Well, see,
If, if,
yeah.
if, if Red Skull breaks into Wakanda wearing the face of Captain America with the tech that he has from Shield,
Okay.
Hydra,
Right.
breaks out Ulysses Claw. Now Black Panther is on the hunt for Steve Rogers.
Okay.
See what I'm going with this?
A little bit. Here's what I'm
Yeah.
here's the kind of confused. At first, I was gonna say, well, wouldn't it make more sense to make basically the original Red Skull the supreme leader, and then Ulysses Claw basically the body double that's causing all kinds of ruckus and like being a brilliant strategist? Because well, what I'm thinking is like, okay, well, if he's captured, right?
Mhm.
Nobody knows who this person is, right?
Right.
Because it's the modern day. So nobody knows who
Right.
Red Skull is. So they think he's just got a skin condition, you know?
Right. Right. So maybe
But
he rises to power somehow.
well, I think it would be I know you haven't played it, but I think it would be
Yeah.
a great like Phantom Pain situation where it's like, okay, well, uh, I don't do you care if I spoil the story for you or you don't
Go
care?
ahead.
Okay. So I think it would be great to where it's like, okay, Ulysses Claw essentially is Venom Snake in this instance, where it's
Mhm.
like, okay, he has the tech from Hydra,
Mhm.
or I'm sorry, he has the tech from Shield, right?
Yeah. Which is
Um,
Hydra, essentially. Yeah.
yeah. Well, at this point, yeah, because they've already
Hmm.
been kind of at least halfway infiltrated, right?
Right.
And so he has that kind of mass doubling thing that you see in Winter Soldier, right? Where it's just like, okay, where it's just like, okay, he is playing Red Skull, but only at times. He goes back and forth
Hmm.
between being himself and
Hmm.
being Red Skull, right? And
Hmm.
then that way
Hmm.
it's like, okay, well, listen, this is your supreme leader, blah blah whoop de whoop de whoop. And then after that, he can end up going back to being Ulysses Claw, being the like the like under like the top like lieutenant
Yeah.
basically. And then after that, he can basically say he can basically reveal himself in a way to where it's like, okay, the Red Skull is cornered. Somehow Ulysses runs away, but then by the time they corner Red Skull, it's like, oh, this is actually Ulysses. Ulysses, we thought ran away. Ulysses is the actual guy. Is like, oh no, the plan is still in motion, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that's when you reveal that the real Red Skull, he's off somewhere doing his like Hydra building thing off somewhere else.
Yeah. I think so. I would have him building his Hydra building thing in Sokovia.
That would make sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that would
Hmm.
work.
Yeah. So that's what I would have him do. And the reason why is because he would rise to power in Sokovia.
Yeah.
He would start taking in all this stuff. He would have a different face that he would be using.
Hmm.
Um, Perhaps Baron Zemo, or perhaps he killed Baron Zemo's father and took his place. Because Baron Zemo is actually a very, very big individual in Sokovia that they just totally blanched over. He's a baron, you know.
Okay.
So,
If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna do that,
mhm,
right, where does Ulysses die at? Because something has to happen to where Baron Zemo is basically taking over Ulysses' spot as like the top lieutenant.
he dies where that's how you figure out that Red Skull isn't Red Skull. Because guess who kills him?
Baron Zemo?
Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier.
Okay. 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 So then, all right. So then let me ask you this. Does the whole story get resolved for like Tony's parents? Do they just like let that go? Or is there like a small scuff and then they, does the heat die down when because like I said, I
Yeah,
think they shouldn't have made Civil War about Tony's parents and
no,
saving the friend because I feel
yeah,
like
yeah,
all of that could be solved if they just,
yeah,
have that conversation because it makes it seem like between Winter Soldier and Ultron as it's written now, it's like Natasha and Steve knew that
yeah,
this dude killed Tony's parent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
They
I
knew.
would take that. Yeah, I would take that part out. I would make it so it was a hit from Hydra on Tony's parents
I mean, it
because I think that
was.
that's important. Yeah, it was, but I think keep that part because that part is important.
Sure.
But it also puts blinders on Tony to go, I'm going to take out Hydra. And that's why he creates Ultron, is to take out Hydra while he's still having these flashbacks of Thanos and everything else. So you take the Thanos, you take the pressure of his parents being killed by Hydra, you take the pressure of Hydra showing up. That's what leads him to create Ultron. That's what leads him to create Vision. And that's what kind of creates all of those things.
How do you take but here's the
Yeah.
thing. How do you take care of the mind control problem where Bucky Barnes is essentially the age because if Tony Stark really has blinders on, he's still gonna be like you're the one directly responsible towards Bucky Barnes.
Well, that's going to be the problem that's how Civil War is essentially going to be. Because Tony is so angry and blinded by his rage about, I'm going to keep the fact that Hydra took out his parents.
Right.
I would keep the fact that he sends Bruce, like, we'll stick to the comics. He sends
Yeah.
Bruce Banner away.
Yeah.
Bruce Banner is gone,
Yeah.
right? So you still have Thor Ragnarok, which, beautiful movie. Um,
Mhm.
One of the best Marvel movies. I'm sorry. I think the only one that was better than it was Winter Soldier, in my opinion.
Okay.
Um, so just based upon writing and everything else, it was beautifully done. Um, but so with that, I would have Tony be so like, you know what? Nick Fury failed us, Steve Rogers failed us, all these things. Because maybe they're talking, and Steve's like, I'm going to take down the Red Skull from here. You got to stop this situation here with the twins and everything.
Right.
Tony's able to capture Wanda and Pietro, but Red Skull gets away because of Winter Soldier. So now Tony is basically fine, I'll do it myself kind of mentality. He goes
Yeah.
back to that, why that happened. The reason why Steve Rogers is fighting him isn't to protect Bucky, it is to stop him from uh, basically Tony's being manipulated to give Red Skull an army without realizing it
Okay.
through Ultron. through Ultron. So they wind up discovering the plan that Red Skull has based upon Ulysses Claw. I was going to say Ulysses Grant, but Ulysses
Yeah.
Claw. They wind up discovering the plan that Red Skull has. Steve, Natasha, and and Falcon are actively trying to stop that plan, but Tony is so dead set on protecting the world now that they've lost Hulk, now that they've got this situation with Shield no longer in effect.
Hmm.
Um,
It's completely
and
like
that's
disoriented and disrupted.
completely disoriented, disrupted. And at this point, Tony's like, "You were gone. You didn't see what happened." And we're gonna have like the chaos about Hulk be substantial and maybe throw some Hydra stuff in there too. Uh, but it's gonna be to the point where like Tony's not gonna care what Cap has to say at all whatsoever. He's
Right.
like, "You were gone. You were on your own little revenge mission, and
Hmm.
that's what caused all this. I am going to sink every ship that Hydra could possibly have. Everything that is Shield is going to disappear, and that's basically like Tony just winds up giving into his fear, and that's what boils down into Civil War is Rogers and Natasha, Clint, Falcon. And we'll throw Winter Soldier in there too, because Bucky's just trying to kill Red Skull. So Bucky realizes he didn't kill Red Skull. He aligns with Cap just so he can kill Red Skull. Um, and in the same sense, like I said, Red Skull goes to. I still think Red Skull should go to Wakanda dressed as Cap, because then that would mean Black Panther is now hunting for Cap too. So you have all these things going on.
So they can fight.
Yeah, yeah. I'd rather have him hunt Cap than Winter Soldier, to be honest,
Okay.
because I think that that would actually be a better storyline is uh you know T'Challa trying to kill Captain America.
Yeah. Well, so then, all right. So would Civil War also be a part one, part two thing? Because when I look at it,
Yeah.
I'm still thinking that the Sokovia Accords, right,
Yes.
in the movie
Yeah.
was basically a
Right.
replacement for the Hero Registration Act, which
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same
Yeah.
premise, but
Yeah.
I'm like, they still should have kept it, right?
Right. No, and that's kind of like what I'm saying is it's not going to necessarily be Civil War Part One, but it's going to be the precursor of Civil War. It's
Right.
going to be like the this
Yeah. The
what's kind of
prologue.
causing it. The prologue, yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be that thing that you can see rattling underneath the surface and you know something's going to happen. You're just not sure what type situation. So, um, with that, I think in that sense, it would be a part one, part two, but really it would just be more of an explanation or predecessor of what's going to happen. And so when you go down the line, instead of destroying Ultron at the end, because stupid, just Uh, they should be able to stop Red Skull. The Sokovia Accords happen. Um, now you have Baron Zemo,
Hmm.
who's angry about the fact that Sokovia got taken over, knows that his family was used and that the Avengers wouldn't listen to him. And he winds up taking matters into his own hands. Because in the comics, Baron Zemo is probably the most deadly villain that Captain America faces.
Why? Because he's a manipulator.
He's a manipulator. He's very skilled. He's a very skilled fighter. He's special forces. He's um very calculated, and he gets a hold of the super serum himself.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay. Well,
yes. So, in that sense, I think that Baron Zemo would come in. He would cause some manipulation. He would use. I think he would use Bucky Barnes against Cap with Tony, but it wouldn't be because Bucky Barnes killed Tony's family. It would be because Tony is signing the the Accords, essentially saying we're not going to do this anymore, but Bucky can't. And
Right.
he's telling Cap, you need to give him up. And Cap said, no, I'm not going to give him up. Type situation. He's my friend. I'm not doing that. And also, we did nothing wrong. We tried to save people. Um, so I would still have kind of the same teams, except for instead of T'Challa signing up to kill Bucky, I would have it T'Challa signs up with Iron Man just to kill Cap. Like that's his only focus is to kill Cap.
Yeah.
And um,
How do you end it on a stalemate or at least like equal losses? Because like I said, that was the
yeah,
one thing that, if instead of Captain America Civil War, if they just called it Civil War and then they
yeah,
could equally represent the losses as well as the wins,
yeah.
then I would be cool
Um,
with that.
I would have I would have Cap lose Nick Fury.
Okay.
Because I think Nick Fury is going to be the one that's trying to cause peace between Tony and Cap, and he's the one who's trying to solve the situation. Um, and I would have Tony have War Machine get paralyzed from the waist down. Um, I wouldn't necessarily have any of Cap's people imprisoned.
Mhm.
Um,
They got to be severely injured though. Somebody got to be
yes.
severely.
So my thought was Wanda would be severely injured.
What about?
Vision would fly away with her because he wants to protect her, and
Mhm.
that's how those two disappear. He just
Okay.
takes off with her. I would have Bucky severely injured, to the point where Cap has to go somewhere to try to help him and heal him.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that they would have to rely on Natasha's family for that, and that's how you wind up bringing in uh, her family
Okay.
and their background and everything because they know super soldiers.
What about the mental conflict as like they were
Yeah,
so because I think like I said one of the things that it wasn't just the losses that they experienced on both sides as
right.
far as personnel but or
Yeah,
like the damages or anything physical damages it was also like the mental toll that it took. It was like well
yeah,
I still believe I did the right thing but like was it worth it kind of thing.
yeah. And I think that would that would kind of hit both of them.
Hmm.
I don't know if I would have Cap give a phone to Tony.
Hmm.
I don't think I would have that situation happen. Um, I do think that I would have Cap and T'Challa resolve what happened
Hmm.
with Ulysses' Claw. That way, Cap can take Bucky to Wakanda and get help.
Hmm.
Um, and at that point, I would just have Cap hide out in Wakanda so that he can get away from everything going on. And I would also have it so uh, Red Skull ruins Captain America's reputation 100% in the United States.
Okay.
And that's what basically causes his mental collapse. Tony's mental collapse is losing everything, seeing that his creation has caused a lot of damage, and now he's just 100% sold on Ultron is going to save us all type situation. He's going to protect us all, and then the next big bad would be Ultron,
Yeah.
and
So you
that's what brings Cap back is the situation with Ultron.
so this sound like that would be fleshed out over maybe instead of it being Ultron, Civil War, uh, and Winter Soldier, it seems like they would need probably at least two more movies
Yeah,
to
yeah,
resolve that whole
yep.
situation with Hydra figuring out where they
Hmm.
stand on
Hmm.
on the issues with the Sokovia Accords or the Superhero Registration
Hmm.
Act or and
hmm
then working out the whole Hydra situation as well as setting up for
hmm
Ragnarok and Civil War and
hmm
yeah, yeah, because
I think that they would have done a better service. They're trying to do it now, but I think they would have done a better service if they would have had Red Hulk appear.
back
Um,
then,
due to this Sokovia Accords, yeah. So you have like this general that wants somebody that he can control. He winds up taking this elite soldier, turning him into the Red Hulk.
yeah,
And now Tony has to try to figure out how to get Hulk back. And that's because that's the only person that can face this guy. And that is when he starts trying to find Cap,
yeah.
not
Well,
to fight him, but to get help.
okay. So all right. So what's the appeal in doing that?
The appeal in doing that is showing that the Sokovia Accords actually caused a lot of damage, caused a
Okay.
lot of situations because they made up too easily in Endgame, you know? Like it was too easy. Like, yeah, it was 5 years later after they lost a bunch of things, but it was still way too fast for the situation. Um it wasn't
Well,
like they had time to work together to figure stuff out. It was like they just went back to being friends they could work for.
yeah. Well, yeah. So that would have to be drawn out for
Hmm
like, another couple of movies. In game part one and
At
part two.
least just one. I mean, I would say it'd probably just be one, and that would be the sense of like Tony would realize because now this is what would happen. Ultron
Mhm.
winds up taking over everything without Tony realizing it. Tony realizes it a little bit too late. He realizes these Sokovia Accords and these new heroes that have come up are actually causing a lot of issues because they were never really breaded as heroes. They just kind of became heroes due to these Sokovia Accords, and the government wanted to have their own heroes to be in control of things. Meanwhile, you have Baron Zemo still manipulating things, still causing issues. And you also have Captain America, who is currently on the run because America hates him, and he's trying to figure out how to get back his country and get back everything that he fought for,
Mhm.
uh, while taking down Hydra completely because Hydra isn't completely gone. And that's what leads into Tony saying, "All right, I need help. I need Steve. I need the team,
Kind of, kind,
basically."
kind of like, listen, what we got is on pause for right now. Never
Yeah,
fully
yeah,
recovering,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
but just enough to where it's like, hey, and then
yeah.
that might just be like they might have to like through battle, I guess, have to like find that trust again, find that kind of kinship again.
Yeah, and I think the best way for them to find it would be for um basically Tony to come to Cap after they wind up working through everything and saying, "I'm sorry, I should have never sent Bruce away." Because that's going to be what kind of triggers Cap. Because Cap wanted to help Bruce. Cap wanted to help the Hulk. He didn't want him being cast aside. And if Tony were to just send Hulk away to another planet and all these things, that would have been something that they would have to work through.
You know, well,
But you could still have Ragnarok in between them too, which is the crazy thing. Like if Ragnarok would have happened before, um, or right after Age of Ultron, so you wind up sending Hulk away. You have Planet Breaker Hulk. You have Planet Hulk. Essentially, only Thor knows where he is because Thor took him to that area. They come to Thor. They have to convince Thor that they need to save Hulk. They wind up having to fight Thor because he's like, "No, we're not getting Hulk. Like this is a problem.
I'm the strongest Avenger.
I'm the strongest Avenger." And also, you saw what he did. You saw how much he destroyed. We can't have that. We have Vision now. He's just as strong as Hulk. We're fine.
Right.
Um, but they wind up convincing him that they need to go get Hulk. They go to this planet. Hulk is now the ruler, the king of this planet, essentially the Gladiator King. So then
Yeah,
winds up having to fight Hulk. You have Ragnarok, essentially. So I would say there's a lot of things I would have done differently. It's not perfect by any means. Like I'm not a millionaire
sure.
writing billions. of things that people fall in love with and everything like that. But I can speculate and I can have fun with it. Um,
Hey,
but
maybe
as far
when
as yeah,
maybe when all those what you call it? Maybe when all those what is it called?
wild imaginations, I don't
No,
know.
no, 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 no. It's a legal thing.
Oh,
All when maybe when all those copyrights are up,
uh,
you
yeah.
know, then
I'd rather make my own heroes.
I mean sure, sure, sure. I mean, but you
Yeah,
know, that
yeah,
there are some famous ones that's getting are freeing up pretty shortly.
I know,
I
I
think
know.
Batman and Superman is about to enter into the domain in like the next 10, 12 years.
The only character in DC Universe that I would want to do anything with
Hmm,
is Red Hood, Jason Todd.
that makes sense. I mean, for
That's
you.
the only one. Yeah, that's the only one I want to do anything with.
Yeah.
Jason Todd. That dude, it'd be interesting to write about him, do some kind of screenplay with him and everything. But I prefer Marvel over DC
Okay.
personally because the heroes are a little bit more down to earth, they're a little bit more real, a
Yeah.
little bit more tangible, you know.
And they're
So
balanced and they're a little bit more balanced in their like weaknesses
yeah,
and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
you look at like I get it. Batman, Batman, world's greatest detective. He's a human, but he's fighting amongst all these, superhumans. And,
yeah,
Batman has kind of solidified his reputation amongst the masses as being like, oh, he's a great superhero,
hmm,
but, there are a few people that's online that be like, no, Batman's actually trash. And we'll have
yeah.
like the comics to back it up. And I'm like, the more I hear about it, I'm like, you know what? Maybe Batman isn't as great as I thought he was. But I
I,
still also I
yeah,
still respect why people think that he is like greater than most other heroes that have
yeah.
powers.
If he were a standalone character, not in the world of DC Universe, where he was surrounded by all these characters with all these magnificent abilities and everything else, he would be an amazing character.
Yeah. Or deal with like some of the other super
Yeah.
villains that he faces.
I just don't like how much of a hypocrite he is. That's my thing.
Is that more or less due to the way that he's portrayed in comic or not comics, like movies and TV shows and junk?
No, I'm talking about comics.
Okay. What
Yeah.
you mean like, oh, don't fight crime and all this other stuff?
No, he's just like when it comes to the Robins, like he's
Protective.
very protective, but he's also very like in a way, don't be me, but be me,
Yeah.
you know?
Like
And
if
it
you're gonna
causes
go out and do
problems.
this, you might as well like go through
Yeah.
the lengths of. And that's why like Nightwing can't stand him because like he's always in Batman's shadow, and on top of that, it's like you got all these
Yeah.
rules, but
Yeah.
you don't
Well,
never
it's
really
not that Nightwing can't stand him. It's more that Nightwing sees through everything and goes, dude, like I love you because you're my dad, but
right.
you are the worst manipulator on the face of the planet.
Well, that's what I mean.
Like
I don't mean
super
like in a
manipulative.
sense as like a
Yeah.
person. I just
Yeah, yeah.
mean like as a almost as like a leader and a mentor, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
think he respects Bruce Wayne
Hmm.
and loves him as a person, but I think
Hmm.
who he like his idea for like the code and everything like that,
Hmm.
I don't think he can stand that side of him.
Yeah, no, he can't. And that's why he kind of went out on his own and did his own thing.
Yeah.
But also like that's why Jason Todd and Nightwing just do not get along at all because uh Dick Grayson was like the perfect Robin as far as like what Batman wanted until he wasn't. And
Okay.
then in a lot of ways, I would say the best Robin, as far as like what Batman would need,
Damien?
is Tim Drake.
Oh,
Nope, Tim Drake.
okay.
Tim Drake, because Tim Drake was a lot more skilled of a detective than Batman. He was actually more intelligent than Batman. And though he doesn't have the same abilities fighting wise, like if Batman were to just be a I'm helping the police and that's what I'm doing,
Right.
Tim Drake would be perfect. If it's a Batman of I need to take down all these bad guys and do what Batman does, it would be Dick Grayson. The worst Robin is Damian Wayne, but he could be potentially the best Batman.
Oh, okay. Breast replacement
Yeah,
Batman.
yeah. If Batman decided he was going to kill people.
Or like, he just like died of old age or something like that.
Yeah, but anyway, that's
But yeah,
that's my thoughts on that.
but yeah, man. I know it's that time.
Yep, it's that
And
time.
yeah, and thank you guys so much for watching Mechanics of Myth. I know it was
Yes, sir.
a little bit of a longer episode, but
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed at least the discussion, some of the writing
Uh,
ideas from actually this author who is, do you got your book with you to show?
I, I don't down here. I
Oh,
don't.
well,
Yeah,
we'll probably post it somewhere in
somewhere. Yeah.
in editing. But you want to
Yes.
talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah. K.A. Wolf Jackson story by Jordan Flowers on Amazon. It's a story, original story about a retired Marine living in Billings, Montana, who essentially needs a purpose, finds one, and finds healing and redemption in ways that he never thought possible. A lot of gunplay, a lot of working through personal trauma, a lot of uh, discovering new identity and peace. And also, I am going on book tour starting in Ankeny, Iowa, November 23rd at what cafe is that? It is the Spotlight Coffee House. So I will be there from 12 to 3 p.m., as well as with my wife, who is also going on tour with her children's book, Gospel Centered Christmas, which is the entire gospel story broken down into a brief scenario from the beginning of creation to the birth of Christ to the death and resurrection of Christ and why he is the greatest gift that we could ever have. She is also going on book tour with me with Christian Television Network all through Iowa. We're very excited. And also, Get Nogged, The Crime Before Christmas is a murder mystery dinner live action party game that myself and Joe had created last year. It is on Amazon. Joe is going to be doing some really cool things with that. It's got 30 different characters, 15 different outcomes. And basically, you get a script and you get to play a character. Joe, tell the people what you're planning on doing with that.
Well, what I plan on doing with that is hopefully digitizing that to make it a video game, and that way people can play it at home, at least
Yep.
during the holidays. Hopefully we can have this out when there's like during Christmas time, and then that way
Yeah.
it's gonna be themed. That way, if you're an introvert like myself and you don't like really talking with people, you can you can just play the video game. It works. It's
Or
a
you could
good
have a Christmas party and have it on your phone, and you
or
guys could all play in the same room.
that's also true. That's also
Yeah.
true. So yeah, and also you might want to talk about like you want to mention your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So, well, I haven't started that one. I'll start. I'll just talk about the other. So I also have a ministry channel, Redeeming
Yeah.
Dry Bones. I share that with my wife. We work really, really hard on it. Just trying to push people towards Christ and speaking into the reality of what life is. And right now it's a little bit of a trying time.
Mhm.
It's looking like things might turn around. Praise God. But it's also really hard for a lot of people, and the world is in chaos. And sometimes we just need reality. The biggest thing that we have run with the church is trying to be holier than thou. I'm by no means a perfect man. I make a lot of mistakes, and really, it's just meeting people where they're at, talking about God, trying to help you understand that it's not about being perfect, it's about coming strong. So, can these dry bones live? Jesus' name, they can.
Yeah. And you guys can find me at youtube.com at kingdom building culture. And what I do over there is I basically use popular movies, sometimes games, anime to basically convey biblical concepts. I also have a website, kingdombuildingculture.com. If you go under the blog section, you can also find the full length of all those videos because honestly, YouTube takes those down because, copyright claims. But hey, we figure out a way around those. So, yeah, if you want to go watch those, we have scriptures to back it up. We're actually doing almost a play-by-play to see where there are the story beats lines up with things that happen in the Bible to convey certain concepts. That way, me and you can look at the same thing and we can understand what's happening visually and also what's happening in the Bible. So,
Yeah,
like I said, youtube.com/kingdom building culture, or if you just want to go to kingdombuildingculture.com, also Instagram, kingdom building culture. So yeah, there's all that.
yeah,
And we'll
and
put all that in the link in the description. And obviously, we have a YouTube channel now because
yes,
that's important to plug.
that's
So we'll
important to
be
plug.
on there. We'll
Yep.
have it on Rumble. You might be watching this on Rumble, and maybe you might be listening to this on Spotify. So we'll have that going. So
Watch
yeah.
on Rumble. Rumble is where we want to be. Rumble, rumble, rumble.
But like I said, guys, thank you so much for watching and
Yep.
stay blessed, stay encouraged in Jesus' name.
God bless, guys.